Great, lovely. So there's always a where and a when, basically. Sorry, that came out where, I should say. Sorry, that is a mess. But anyway, you know the idea. And in any environment there are constraints. There are things that you sort of can't do, like we couldn't, probably build a battleship in here, and we couldn't swim in here, and we might not be able to have a gymkhana in here. And
fire.
Yes, so there's kind of constraints, in any environment. But there's also multiple opportunities, and I think that's what we're talking about presence, and we're talking about this kind of space of potential. There are many, many opportunities and choices to create something that has never been there before, to create something new, to make new, types of choices, and to create new kinds of opportunities for people to enjoy and take pleasure and be touched and changed by what you're presenting. So this is like there are constraints. Actually, I should put this opportunities on that side. Then there's the idea that there are certain behaviours, and behaviours take place in a particular context. And that's part of the NLP way of thinking, is to contextualize. One of them, anyway, is to help people contextualize things so that I behaved like this because in this context, that's what came out of me. And what this does is, it's a counter picture to the idea of a generalization. That people are always X, or I am never Y. And go, well, in this situation specifically, when I was talking to this person, my behaviour was this, and I can start to really see and hear and kind of talk about something that actually happened, rather than make lots of generalizations. There's nothing wrong with making generalizations, but when you want to get into the detail and into the specifics, and especially in terms of feedback and looking for feedback that has a kind of quality to it, we're also looking to calibrate for highly contextualized responses and behaviors that we're doing as well, in order to go, well, where and when we think, did I actually do that? So this is about actions. It's about actions and reactions. It's about what people actually say and do. And so it's speech, it's this kind of somatic, non-verbal, kind of things that you can see and hear. I mean, Robert often says this is everything you can see and hear. Let me just, sorry, this is a bit messy. I think the words a bit sort of probably not quite accurate. So then there's this next level, which is this less visible level. So in other words, you can kind of see and hear behaviours, and they're contextualised, they're in real time, in real life, in time-space coordinates. Capabilities are more inner kind of things. They're like our more inner cognitive type strategies and ways of using our minds. They're also ways of using our feelings and our moods and our states and our energy. So here you've got sort of, as it were, on the one hand, you've got this idea of, state. I mean, in the early days of NLP, it was kind of state and strategy. One is more cognitive, one is more somatic and physical and emotional. You could also say this is kind of energy management, and this is also more kind of cognitive and maps and models. And then what motivates and kind of drives, because obviously we have the capability and the kind of potential for behaviours to do all kinds of things. And yet, why do we only do these sorts of things? We don't tend to do everything. And that's because of something even less tangible, which is to do with values and beliefs, like what we feel is important. we will, values and beliefs, we will take through our capabilities into behaviour in a particular context, into a time and place. That's what will motivate us, and what will sort of in a way allow us to feel it's okay to, give us permission to. So this is also motivation and permission. And this answers the question why. And so beliefs, values are like this kind of felt sense of meaning. It's like an inner felt sense of meaning. And it often is about a kind of desire, to want something, to create something that fulfills for you that value. And a belief is more of a kind of cognitive type structure, really, which supports that value. Like, what causes that, or what does that mean to you? It's like how the maps get kind of glued together. So then we've got this idea that there's a kind of sense of identity. There's this who somebody is. And obviously, we're never... I like that expression that people have where you go, whatever you think you are, you're always more than that. You cannot get a label really on a person. They're always more than that. And in fact, Robert Dilts has this idea of the sort of the physics of this idea of a superposition, where you have the capability, the potential to be every possible kind of permutation of everything, but then form it is brought into being in a particular context, and often in a relational context. So that, I'm only like this because I'm with you. I'm not like this in my kitchen. I'm not kind of going, and now I'll have a piece of toast. So in other words, a kind of identity is like, we don't really know what an identity is. On the other hand, as we did this morning, when everybody said, well, this is who I am, and kind of this is a little bit about what I do, we have a real sense, so there's a really unique person. There is an identity there of some kind. And so identity is also to do with the kind of form that you give that, either in the terms of a mission, if you like, or a role. Sometimes people, you might think, well, my identity is the trainer, in this context, but when I'm at home, my identity is, mum or dad or something like that, or neighbour or whatever. And so then, at the next organising level, there's this idea of the level of vision, which is like, so this is me, and then there's this bigger sense of for whom and for who else. What else gets touched? What else am I aware of? What else can I wake up to in terms of the living systems that I am part of? And so this is much more to do with kind of purpose. And if you like, for whom and who else, I think are kind of questions that you might do. And there's a lot more really to say about this model. The really important thing is you can start to see that there are different kinds of things going on at different levels. And so a behaviour isn't the same as a value that drives it. A behaviour is not the same as identity. Your kind of vision for what could be is not the same as where you are right now. What you know, your know-how and your how-to, is not the same as a kind of, a belief about what's possible to, to express or to, get good at or something. So, yeah, so there's lots of other things I could say about this, but most people here probably use this model quite a lot. You do, don't you? You know, and you use it, don't you? And so really it's, does that sort of make sense to you?
Sure.
And you can use this, Daniel, which we're going to do. We're going to use it as a model to explore different levels of your presence in presentation.
Sure.
So that we can again start to gather some interesting information, but also to pattern and to help strengthen and promote certain aspects at different levels for you. So there is a kind of alignment.
Sure.
And this is also a diagnostic map. You know, if you're a trainer or you're a coach or you're designing something, this is a very, very useful model to go, well, what shall I do with respect to the environment? Well, what we were talking about, you know, take charge of the furniture, you know, I kind of go, in respect to the environment of training, you know, what behaviours will I do? You know, what do I need to know? What sort of maps and mental models and strategies do I need? You know, a memory strategy or a way to sequence and storyboard my day or my presentation or my story or something. I need to manage myself in some way, my energy and my emotions. Then what are going to be my beliefs? You know, what am I going to value? Some of the things that came up, I think, that have already come up for all of us, you know, valuing connection, valuing learning, valuing growth, valuing a kind of expansion of, you know, being in the world in some way. There are things at very high levels, and then, you know, valuing things like having water on tap, and valuing things like having a comfy enough chair, you know, valuing having handouts, you know, that you can kind of value these kinds of things. And then what do I need to believe, you know? So I might kind of go, well, I believe if I do these kinds of things in these kinds of ways, that will lead to good things happening. That will lead to people understanding things, you know. So I've got like a series of beliefs that I'm running about what is going to most promote my sense of presentations and bringing my presence to that. Then my identity, like, well, who am I when I'm being at my best and when, you know, I'm kind of bringing myself there. And I think sometimes in this model it's quite nice to have like a symbol or something like that. That's why both those things that we looked at before lunch have got this idea of a light, you know, or Martha Graham has this idea of a channel. You know, there's a kind of channel that I open and I let things just come from there, or I'm a light that's shining. And as I shine my light, that gives people permission to shine theirs and to, you know, step back from their fear and, you know, be suffused with a kind of light, you know. And then there's the vision, which is, you know, the big picture, like why? Why would you do this? Why do you want this? What's really important to you about this? And we've covered some of this a little bit, but this is another way of doing it. When we've done that, we're going to go, so what did you learn? And what do you want to strengthen? And where are there any areas of, you know, where you feel that is a very rich area, or other areas where you go, there's a little bit of area of doubt or kind of shadow there. It's like, let's just have a look at that.